Have you ever looked at Dilophosaurs in Ark and wondered to yourself, can these ever be useful? Have you ever wondered if you could turn them into an unsuspecting powerhouse? Or have you ever wondered if they can take down some of Ark's biggest threats? Well, strap yourselves in because I've gone and mutated them so you don't have to. I started out by locating 2 max level Dillos, as well as a bonus 140. I knocked them out and then took them home to smash. Once they'd done the deed enough times, they finally gave birth to a baby with all the best stats between them. I then swapped the baby into smash with the remaining parent until they finally gave birth to the opposite gender with all the best stats. From there, I proceeded raising a few more females to speed things along, and then used those to breed a lot more females. Once I had 100 females, I set up 2 breeding operations with 50 females each, setting the male up to breed on one of them to see if we could get our first mutations. What a lucky guy. It honestly didn't take that long with that many females, and once we had a male with a health mutation and another with a melee mutation, we put the original male to the side and put one of each mutated babies onto the separate breeding operations. From there, we just waited for the second mutation in each line, stacking as we went until we got as high as I could be bothered going, which was 100 total points between the original points of the stat and the additional mutation points. While the stat mutations were happening, I was keeping an eye on what colors we were getting with mutations and combining them on the side. Once the mutation lines were done, I maniacally combined my creations together to create a breeding pair of Dillos with all the best stats and colors combined. Meanwhile, I let my breeding lines catch up on some much needed rest. With everything all combined, this was the result. After playing around with my new Dillo and watching him cause a bit of mayhem with some basic creatures, it was time to put it to the test. How strong are they really? Well, I decided the best way was to step it up and see what we could take on. I decided to use a mate boosted pair to see the best results. Sitting atop my baryonyx like a mobile command center, I sent my destructive Dillos in against my enemies. The first victim was a raptor, which Nurgery's Bane took down with ease. This gave me high hopes that the whole project had been worth it. The second victim was a Carno, which met a very similar end to the raptor. These Dillos were quickly proving their worth. It was time to start testing them against bigger creatures that, to be honest, made me a little nervous. The next adversary they were pitted against was a Therizino. To my surprise, they tickled it more than it tickled them. Continuing up the creature ladder, I located a Rex for them to take on, and with a lot more confidence I sent them in knowing the Rex didn't stand a chance. I was very correct. With some of the apex creatures out of the way, and knowing there was no chance these Dillos could take on a Giga or a Karcher, I decided to take it in a different direction and start trying to take on some alphas. The first alpha we took on was the Raptor, which put up a lot more of a fight, and I knew I was starting to find a challenge for my tiny weapons of mass destruction. And I gotta be honest, I was starting to get a little bit nervous that I may have started to find their limits. Kicking it up a notch again, it was time to take on an Alpha Carno. After seeing the Dillos take substantial damage from the Alpha Raptor, I was nervous about this fight. Aside from Dillos not being able to wear saddles to gain armor against incoming damage, the Carno also does bleed damage, which takes your health down by a percentage over time. Without the bleed damage, I was confident my Dillos would likely win, but I just wasn't sure they could kill this one quick enough before the bleed would kill them. Turns out, no, Nurgery's Bane! I was right, and my Dillos were banished to the afterlife. No, Dilophosaur! I couldn't leave it there. I had grown attached to Nurgery's Bane in our short time together, and I didn't want his death to be in vain. So, with revenge in my sights, I got to work building an army so that we could show the Carno that it doesn't get to rule the Ark. I do. With 50 Dillos all raised, left to gain experience in cryopods for a few days and then leveled up, it was time to enact our revenge. We took our army and began throwing them all out ready to fight the Carno. The original Carno had sadly despawned by the time we were ready, but there were others on the map and any Alpha Carno would satisfy me. One had even spawned in where the old one was, which was even sweeter. I knew that 50 was overkill, but this was no longer about proving that Dillos could win. This was about sending a message to all Alpha Carnos that their bullying will no longer be tolerated. The Dillos took a while taking it down, as they struggled to hit it and there were a lot of obstacles in the way. But they eventually got it, and the sweet sound of the Carno's body hitting the floor reverberated amongst the forest. Ah. With the Carno defeated and the army on standby, I knew what I needed to do. It was time to fight an Alpha Rex. Sadly, there were none on the map, so with some admin magic, I was able to make one magically appear. I had no idea how this fight would go. The Dillos had proven themselves strong, but an Alpha Rex is no easy opponent. I just stood back and watched them take it on. Yes! We did it! And with that, the army had proven they could take on an Alpha Rex with ease and became the true Alpha, excluding a certain large terrifying predator that we're not going to go anywhere near in this video. Or will I? Would I leave you all wondering like that? Of course we're going to take on a Giga. There is no way we're going to win, but it will be a noble ending for my little Alpha Slayers. The issue with taking on a Giga is that unlike an Alpha that can't eat corpses, they can. Which means every time I lose a creature, the Giga will return to full health. It's inevitable that at least one Dillo will die, so there is no way the Dillos can win this. But let's cheer them on anyway. Well, the little Alpha Slayers finally met their match. I'd say they did incredibly well and overall would call this experiment a success. Nobody in their right mind would mutate Dilophosaurs, so that was why I decided to do it for you. So you don't have to. If you have any other suggestions for terrible creatures I should mutate, leave them down in the comments and I may end up doing them in the future. If you did find yourselves enjoying this one at any point in time, I really would appreciate if you can go and hit that like button. It really does help me out, and it also just tells me I've done something right and helps me sleep better at night. Plus, you could always consider subscribing, turning on notifications, leaving a comment down below. All of that is good stuff that helps me out a ton. And of course, if you do want to go that step further, you can become a channel member. It's $1.50 per month, gives you early access to videos. But anyway, guys, as always, I hope you all enjoy whatever it is you're doing, whatever time zone it is. And I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye bye for now.